Welcome back, casual gardeners. I am having my very worst year in any garden ever. This whole video is about why this gardening year sucks, not just for me, but for most gardeners throughout northern Utah. So there have been a number of factors that have contributed to this year sucking. The very first thing has been a wildly schizophrenic spring. We had a late frost followed by an early heat wave, and then things cooled back down, and then this week things are heating back up again. A lot of people have lost a lot of plants. I feel really lucky that a lot of my more sensitive crops actually got through it relatively okay. I've actually been comparatively lucky. My mother has a garden down in Moab. This was supposed to be her first year in her new garden, and she was hit with a massive hailstorm that knocked down most of her plants and a flash flood. So I'm just going to be grateful for what I've got in terms of the weather. The warm weather crops are not the only things that were messed up by our schizophrenic spring, though. My lettuce bolted. I didn't get much of a lettuce harvest this year. I'm going to be harvesting coriander instead of cilantro because yeah, that's bolted and gotten all pretty. I was supposed to be doing a electroculture experiment. That all bolted too, and what didn't bolt was actually developmentally set back and never grew. So I started some more lettuce plants for the electroculture experiment in my house. And once they were all evenly growing and looking great, I transplanted them out back into those containers, and I amended them so that everyone had nice, fresh, nutritious soil to grow in. And then the grasshoppers ate them all of them. This is also a terrible year for crop pests. In most of the Utah growing groups, I'm seeing a lot of complaints about earwigs, massive overpopulations of woodlice, which usually aren't a problem in a garden, but this year they are. We also are overrun with grasshoppers. They've eaten my garlic. Nothing eats garlic. But yeah, the grasshoppers ate my experimental lettuce, so I'm gonna have to try to start that experiment again later. If you are subscribed to my channel just to see how my electroculture experiment works, I am sorry. It's terrible. But the macro pests aren't the only things that we're dealing with. This is also an especially bad year in northern Utah for aphids because we had a mild winter. The mild winter is why we have so many grasshopper eggs hatching now, because the frost didn't get as far down in the soil and kill as many of their eggs. But additionally, aphids like to overwinter in trees. If we have a mild winter, more aphids survive in the trees, and then they kind of migrate down into our gardens. And a lot of people this year are struggling with aphids like more than they usually have. And my garden is no exception. I have just nasty aphids basically on everything. My kohlrabi also is, many of the leaves are almost entirely skeletonized by grasshoppers. Really, the point of this video, it's not how do you solve these problems, because a lot of these problems are insoluble. I can't do anything about the grasshoppers. By the time grasshoppers are a problem, it's too late to actually treat your grasshoppers. I am scattering bait pellets around the perimeters of my garden. If you're worried about the pesticide from the bait getting into your plants, just don't put it in your garden beds. Grasshoppers are highly mobile. They'll find that bait when it's not in your bed. My bait's been going around my pathways. Treatment for aphids is you just hose them off with some water. There's nothing you can do to control the weather. That's entirely out of your control. And that's really the point. I'm just feeling very lucky that I'm not gardening to survive. I'm gardening for the fun of gardening. And these really rough years, I think they're good too, in a way. You can gain some skills gardening under adverse circumstances that you just wouldn't gain if everything's going perfectly. Another bright side is that next year, if it doesn't suck, it's going to be all that much sweeter because this year sucks so much. Oof. That's this whole video. This whole video is me whining about how bad this year is in my garden. If you're having struggles in your garden, share them down in the comments because sometimes sharing our struggles is part of how we get through them. Thank you for joining me here in my tattered, struggling garden today. Hope you have a wonderful time in your own.